Hey everybody, Carmen here. Before I share the gardening video, I just wanted to say a few words. One of our most basic human rights is to have healthy and affordable food and to have the freedom to connect with and explore the natural world. The killing of George Floyd and the coronavirus pandemic has highlighted injustices in our economic, social, and political systems. As a gardener, I support initiatives that give everyone, but especially the disadvantaged and people of color, opportunities to grow and buy food that nourishes their bodies and minds. I know there's a lot more that needs to be done. This week I will be sharing some of the groups I support that help create more spaces for everyone to keep growing together. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Carmen, DeVito, garden designer here in New York City, and today in my garden we're going to talk about vertical vegetable growing. My garden is pretty small and I've run out of space to plant some of the things that I want, so I'm going to make use of the vertical space. Now on this south-facing wall, I used to have these small metal trellises, and you can see they're just really simple, but they're starting to fall apart, and they weren't strong enough to hold up the vegetables and vines that I wanted to grow. So I've removed them, and I have now designed and had built custom trellises. My friend Donald Prokop built them for me, and I measured the space and I designed the trellis to maximize the wall space. This trellis is made out of cedar and cattle panel, which you can get at like any farm store. And the cedar is great because it'll gray and it doesn't need any maintenance. It'll just be able to take the elements for many, many years. The cattle panel is galvanized and it has the perfect size openings for the kinds of vines and vegetables that I want to grow on here. The vines and vegetables will be able to twine around this. So they are pretty much self-supporting on the ground. I put them in a bit of gravel in there so that the wood wouldn't rot underground, and then I just put a couple of anchors so that they wouldn't fall over. On this panel, I'm going to put cucumbers and multiples of them, so they are fast growing and I need a lot of space for them. And then I'm going to put plants at the base. So if you have a south facing wall or an east facing wall, or even west, north isn't good because it's not enough light, you can grow something vertically edible and making use of just very little space. Look at how narrow this space is. It's just 2 inches deep. And you can still have tons of plants at the base. So I'm going to be planting cucumbers and bush beans. And the kind of cucumbers I'm going to plant are burpless. But before we get into the individual plants, I want to talk about something called companion planting, which is basically planting groups of plants together in a beneficial way that each benefits the other. And a classic example of that, which you probably learned about in like 5th grade, is what Native Americans did. They did the 3 sister plantings of beans, corns, and squash. These plants worked really well together. The beans put nitrogen into the soil and climbed up the corn. The corn was the support, and the squash plants at the base provided shade for the roots of the other plants, and they worked really well together. Other examples of companion planting, of plants that you can put together that work really well, besides my cucumber and beans, and I might add some radishes, is corn and zucchini, lettuce and peas, which we did about a month ago, and carrots and onions. The onions help keep away some of the insects that attack the carrots. So that's some examples of companion planting. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to plant the cucumbers with the beans, and I talked about nitrogen fixing with the beans. And what does that mean? Basically, pea and bean plants, they enrich the soil rather than just take nitrogen. They are able to take nitrogen from the air, and the microbes on their root systems are able to convert it to usable nitrogen that the plants can use. And it doesn't just benefit the bean plants, but it benefits the entire soil ecosystem. So now let's talk about which types we're going to plant. The cucumbers, as I said, are the burpless, okay? And this is a hybrid, and we talked about that last time, what a hybrid means. And I want to show you on a seed packet when you see something like F1, that means that's the first generation hybrid. So this plant's parents had some characteristics that the breeder wanted, whether it was vigorousness or resistance to disease. Each parent had some qualities that the other parent didn't have. They bred them and they created this Burpless cucumber. And this is the kind of cucumber that I like to grow because it has a thin skin, not like the ones in the supermarket that have the really thick skin and have to be peeled. These you don't have to peel, and they're really great. They're similar to the ones that you sometimes see English cucumbers. They're wrapped in plastic. So this is going to go on the trellis, and then at the base I'm going to plant bush beans. Bush beans are not going to climb the trellis. I'm going to use them at the base, and they're going to kind of shade out the cucumber plants, and they're going to do the nitrogen fixing, and then they're going to grow and spread and be wonderful. This is an old variety from the 1960s that was developed to produce a lot of beans for canning. It's very tender and delicious. So now let's get planting. First I'm going to plant the cucumbers as close to the trellis as possible. You'll see in this pot that there's 3 small plants. They don't love to be transplanted, so I have to take them out very carefully. If you work from seed, you can easily put them, plant them directly in the garden. You don't have to start them from seed inside like these are. Now, cucumbers have a tendency to rot when in their early stages, so you want to plant them in kind of like a mound, as I'm doing here. It's a little high up, and you can put multiples together, like 2 or 3, like this. And I'm putting them a few inches from the trellis, like this, and I'm making a kind of little mound here. Okay, and I'm putting them about 20 inches apart. So I'm digging not too deep. I've already added compost here and turned the soil over. So now I'm just going to put a good handful of fertilizer, and then I'm going to make my mound and put another one. You can see this is a little bit better rooted. I'm going to put one here and make a little mound of soil, like that, to kind of hold them. And then I have to water them really, really well. Cucumbers are like 95% water, and they need a lot of water to grow well. Okay, and then I'm going to continue with the rest of them here, but I want to show you the bean plants, where I'm going to put them in relation to the cucumbers. Okay, so here in this open space where I've had some perennial spring bulbs, there's all this open space, and I'm going to put my bean plants right in there. And you don't need a lot to have a good crop. You need at least 2 or 3. So the bean plants I'm going to put here in the hole. And you can also put these direct seeded in the ground. This one got a little damage, but you can group them together. And then they'll kind of spread out. I'm going to put a little bit of fertilizer in these too. They don't have to be in mounds. And like I said, they don't need support because they're only bushy. They're only going to be like 2.5 feet tall at most. Okay, and then these I'm also going to put about 18 inches apart. And they're going to grow really fast. Both of these crops, you should be able to start picking in about 60 days from the time of planting. So they're warm weather crops. If you plant them too early, they might rot. They might just not take. So these bean plants, about 18 inches apart, gonna bury them. Have to watch out for birds too, because birds love baby bean plants. They just love them. So I might put like a little bit of a fabric row cover or something on them as they grow. And then what I might also do is plant more by seed here so that I have multiple harvests. So when these are finished, I might have other ones coming a little bit later. So now let's check up on the plants that we planted a few weeks ago. Here are those beautiful little lettuces. Look how big they've gotten in a few weeks. And I'm going to harvest them pretty soon by thinning them out. And then here are the peas. The potted peas, and they're climbing up the trellis as expected. And then over here are the snow peas. They're kind of happy living together here along with the anise plant, which I'm going to use for cooking. So thanks for watching my video. You can follow me on Instagram at DeVito. Stay safe and keep growing.